that good?
Okay, so come back in on cam. Come back on screen. Now, if you move, yeah, perfect. So stand a little bit the other way. Go the other way. Yeah, perfect.
Yeah.
So when you come on, when we start, I'm going to introduce you, and I'm going to introduce whoever else wants to be introduced. How many people are you right now?
There's 5 of us.
You know what? I'm going to move us over here in the shade. It's too hot right here. So I'm going to move us here. That's fine. Hold on. Sorry, honey.
You got 2 minutes.
You got 2 minutes. Is that good?
The sun is...
Is that good? Can you
That's
see
great.
it?
That's
Perfect.
That's,
All right. Yeah.
That's
That's
beautiful.
better.
Hi,
because
everyone. Can you hear me? Please,
She's got
if
her
you're in
own.
the- if
Do
you're
you
in
want
the
me
comments,
to do a
can you
microphone
just
for
let me know
this?
that you hear me?
It's going to be better. Do you have a lapel mic?
I have like a little one like this that goes onto the phone.
Yeah.
Want to do that? Okay.
Hi, Marcia. Hello, Lise. Can you let me know that you can hear me? I just have I have a microphone on my phone, and I want to make sure that it's picking up. Thank you.
Did you take my mic out of here?
No, I didn't.
I had a little box that I threw in. Oh, shit.
Yeah, I did not take it out. I took this out.
Yeah, but was it empty?
It was, I don't know. I put mine in. You did.
I threw mine in.
I threw mine in too.
So is it back at the...
I'm gonna run to the car. Or do you want me to run to the car?
Find the car.
You couldn't find the car?
No, that's why I didn't go to the bathroom. Because it's whatever. We don't have it. Should I turn up?
Doesn't matter. No, it's fine.
Should I turn up the
You know what?
volume?
Do you want to use the mic on
Are you ready to go live?
We are viewing on mine, okay?
Yeah.
I think I may already have 24 or 25 viewers.
Okay.
I have 10 viewers.
That's
How many
okay.
do you have?
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I don't know why there's...
It says that they can hear us.
Okay.
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 Well,
you
I
ready?
guess we could start this because...
Let's start it.
I want to start...
Some women on the Signal app are posting that they're having trouble finding parking.
Well, tell them to put in the address and park. Tell them to park wherever they want, as long as they're near the NBC building and walk. They don't have to park in the lot that I suggested. They can park in any lot as long as they can walk over to the NBC building.
Okay, you ready?
Sure. Yeah, let's just get this going. This is going to play guitar for us while we're waiting.
Love it.
So that's yeah. So go on, we're on.
So okay, good. I'm gonna go live right now.
Okay.
Lakeshore Drive. So
All right. Hello, everyone. This is Amy Stuza. You are watching the Known Heretic channel. I am going live right now in Chicago with the Chicago Speakers Corner. In front of me is Jennifer Thomas, who you will know from Twitter. Jennifer, can you just give us some grounding?
Check.
Where are you set up? And tell me about your Speakers Corner today. What are we speaking up against?
We're speaking for free speech for women and girls and everybody. We have decided to conduct our Speakers Corner across from the NBC building in Chicago, and we've notified them that we are in front of their building. We want to bring awareness to the lack of media that what is a woman attention is getting. We haven't heard from any of the women that this is affecting, so we want to make our voices loud and clear in front of their media building, in front of their building in Chicago. And we're going to start the Speakers Corner with a little bit of entertainment. We have Thistle Patterson here playing her guitar, and we're just waiting for all of the women to get here. There was a few snags in the parking, but they should be here in a few minutes, and Thistle is going to entertain everybody with her music. So,
all right, excited, looking forward to it. Fantastic, thanks, Thistle.
So here's Thistle.
Do you want to hold the mic, or do I need the mic? Can you hear me, Amy?
Yeah, I can hear you.
And you can hear the guitar?
And I can hear the guitar.
Does it sound balanced?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Jennifer, can you go behind her and position the sign in shot?
Put the sign in the shot. Oh, yeah.
And if this one has to stand on one side or the other. Yeah, there we go. That's great. That's perfect. Love it.
All right, here we go. Trans is a liberal construct invented by white straight men. That shuts down our discussions of their violent power, and then they win. Violent power begins with man over woman, and then it all spins off from there into this postmodern racist sexist nightmare. What would be the opposite if trans was real? Cis, cis, cis. Only those seduced by power expect the whole world to be a personal deal. Make it their standard, only personal worth, their proof to be the center of everything. While the earth jumps and dives up their spoon. Their spoof. The joke's on you, there are better things to do. And in the meantime, we are igniting. Yes, in the meantime, we are uniting. The distance between us feels greater than the sum of the parts. My heart is beating while the ozone is depleting. It's way too hard to be hopeful for the future, for humanity. My greatest hope is that me and my friends go out with dignity from this postmodern racist sexist nightmare. This postmodern racist sexist nightmare. Oh. All right, free speech for women. It is not a hate crime to say that women are female and that men are male. It is not a hate crime to put up a sticker that says TERF Collective. It's not a hate speech in any sense of the word to sing a song about women and how gender ideology is impacting us. That's not hate speech, people. We are here for free speech for women. Thanks for tuning into WLRN, to FeMaxx News, and also to Known Heretics channel. All right, I'm going to hand it back to our lovely host, Jay Thomas.
Okay, while we're waiting for some of the women to arrive, I will start this Speaker's Corner because we start our Speaker's Corner on time. I've chosen the NBC building location and have notified them that we are across from their building, and we hope that they come and give us media, because that is another way that they stifle women's speech, is they don't cover our events. What I really wanted to talk about today was the question, what is a woman? Now, we've heard about how ridiculous that question is, and everybody knows what a woman is. And if you're not sure, you can ask your mom. But I wanted to talk about what this question reveals. And what I think is it reveals that women's position in society has been so degraded. This is a litmus test for it. This question wouldn't even be asked if we were respected in society. So that's why I'm here. That's why I'm so active, because what I'm doing is modeling behavior, asking everybody to make a risk assessment. Is it really that risky to say what a woman is? Adult human female? Is it? You know what is more risky? Not saying it. Because the reason why they want to confuse us and make us afraid is the fact that we're afraid. What we should be afraid of, instead of speaking our mind, is the result of not speaking our mind, not saying what a woman is, not saying this is ridiculous. And the fact that everybody is so afraid to speak out is a problem. It's a problem. And what I've noticed is the public needs to see women speaking out so that they reassess their risk. Is it that risky? No, it's more risky not to speak out. It's more risky to let this go ignored and have women's rights be depleted to the point that we aren't even defined in the law. That is what they are trying to do. Take away women's definition in the law, which means we cannot be protected in the law. So, with no more of my nonsense, my talking, I'm going to introduce the next speaker. Who would like to come up next and speak? Come on. You can do it. Okay, here she comes. Hi. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. We all know, even if it's deep in our bellies, what a woman is. It's a guttural thing. A woman is an adult human female. Trans women are biologically and fundamentally different than women, and thus do not belong in our single-sex spaces, places, and events. This includes bathrooms and locker rooms, where men identifying as women have sexually and physically assaulted women and girls. This includes prisons, where female inmates are becoming pregnant against their will by violent trans-identified criminals. This includes birthing spaces, where language used for women and our bodies is being changed, and those who don't follow it are shunned. This includes sports, where washed-up male athletes can transition and go on to annihilate past scores in the female category. Single-sex spaces are essential to our privacy, dignity, and our freedom. It is our job as feminists to fight for and protect women and girls.
Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Thank you so much. Once again, the patriarchy is real. Do we have another speaker? And
Sarah.
This is Sarah. Come on, Sarah. See your piece.
Hello.
So I have a lot of things that I could talk about today. One thing that I decided to talk about is one of the great shames of our time, I believe, which is child transition, meaning um, children who like girls who like to play with action figures, and boys who like to wear pink or dress up in their mother's dresses, being socially transitioned. So being told that they are the opposite sex, and even being prescribed puberty blockers so that they prevent having a normal puberty, as well as then going on to being prescribed cross-sex hormones, and eventually surgical transition, surgical castration. So in boys, that would be the removal of the penis and the testicles, as well as the creation of a faux vagina, which is in no way resembling an actual vagina, that is usually made out of the skin of the penis. In girls, that surgery would mean removal of her breasts, which would be a total mastectomy, as well as a hysterectomy, and in many cases, creation of a faux phallus, which is not in any way functional as an actual phallus because it cannot get erect. It is usually made out of the skin of a girl's forearm. So I want to talk about my own personal experiences first. So I am 36 years old. I was born in the 80s. I was lucky enough to still live in or grow up in the era of free to be you and me. My brother and I played with the same toys. I, as a child, loved Star Trek, Batman, dinosaurs, science. I had short hair from the time I was 3 years old until high school. I like to wear t-shirts and pants, not little frilly dresses. And that is not abnormal, and that should not be abnormal. That is true for many, many girls. It is true that many, many boys like dressing up in their mother's clothes to play pretend, or their older sister's clothes, playing with Barbies, using their imaginations, liking the color pink. How that is not a sign that they are the other sex, that they are anything but what they are. And these days, children are very gender roles or sex roles in society are very, very rigid for children nowadays, more so than when I was a child. It is very possible that if I were a child today, I would be made to feel that I should be a boy because I did not dress like a girl. There were lots of girly things, stereotypically girly things that I did not like. I did not date a boy until I was in college. And that is a scary thought, and I'm sure that is true for many adult women and men in this day and age. So let me talk about, so I have a couple things. One thing is Dr. Lisa Littman. She wrote a study recently about what she termed rapid onset gender dysphoria, which she states, I quote, that she has seen, when she did her research, many parallels between rapid onset gender dysphoria and anorexia nervosa in teenage girls, because rapid onset gender dysphoria, by definition, is a recent phenomenon where usually teenage girls or preteen girls who not necessarily showed any indication in early childhood of saying that they were a boy, wanting to be a boy, wishing they were a boy. But they and their friends, a group of their friends, suddenly decide that they are boys very suddenly. Oftentimes these girls are mired in social media, videos online, and Littman and many of her colleagues observed patients who this happened to. In fact, Littman says that what they call late onset gender dysphoria was only been observed in natal males until quite recently. Starting in about 2012, the phenomenon of natal females exhibiting late onset gender dysphoria just started to become visible. This new type of presentation, largely absent from the research literature prior to 2012, seems to be on the rise. Also during the last decade, there has been a dramatic change in the patients presenting to clinics for gender dysphoria, including a striking increase in teens with a predominance of natal female teens. Again, there are many potential parallels between anorexia nervosa and gender dysphoria. Anorexia nervosa is also a disease that comes from social contagion or can be spread via social contagion among friend groups, groups at school, other girls on social media. The other main parallel to anorexia nervosa, I believe, is so gender dysphoria is a mental condition. Whether it is a disease, I cannot comment on, but it is something that exists entirely in the mind, not in the body, just like anorexia. It is something that causes the person suffering from it to have a warped view of themselves, and the person involved wants the world to participate in that delusion of themselves. The main difference is anorexia nervosa, of course, is when girls either stop eating altogether or they eat so little that they eventually can die of malnutrition, all in the wanting to become thin, stay thin, meet toxic views of what women should be in our culture and society. Anorexia nervosa is the psychiatric disease with the highest fatality rate. The main difference is when a teenage girl who does not eat presents to her psychiatrist and says, "I think that I'm fat. I'm so fat and I'm so ugly. And if I eat, no one will love me." When a psychiatrist hears that from her, she does not assist or affirm that view of the patient. She says, "You are harming yourself and we are here to help you," because that is not correct. With gender dysphoria, the opposite is true. The standard of care currently is the affirming model, where psychiatrists, psychologists, social workers, therapists, teachers, school counselors, parents are encouraged only to affirm the delusion that the patient is actually the opposite sex, even leading them to physical harm, physically harming themselves, or even aiding them in physically harming themselves by the aforementioned surgery, removal of unhealthy tissue, maiming for life, which many people regret. They are called detransitioners. Gender dysphoria is the only mental condition that exists where the wrongful view of the self is affirmed rather than treated. Someone who believes that they are Napoleon or Jesus Christ is not told by their psychiatrist that they are actually Napoleon or Jesus Christ. Why is gender dysphoria different? What I want to end with, because I already have taken a lot of time already, even though there is much more I can say, and thank you for listening, is an actual quote from Dr. Marcy, formerly Mark Bowers, who, by the way, transitioned at the age of 38 after having 3 biological children of his own. Now he performs so-called sex reassignment surgeries, or gender affirmating surgeries. He states outright that every single child who was totally blocked, that means whose puberty was blocked, at Tanner stage 2 has never experienced orgasm. It's really about 0. That is a direct quote from Dr. Bowers. Tanner stage 2, by the way, is the beginning of physical development for children. It occurs between the ages of 9 and 11 in girls and about age 11 in boys. It involves the development of pubic hair, breast buds in girls, and testicular growth in boys. So not only is this quote saying that doctors are, in fact, stopping children's puberty at the age of 9 years old or 11 years old, but also that there is no evidence that a child whose puberty is blocked at that point can experience sexual pleasure. Why are we allowing children who have never even experienced sexual pleasure before, who have never even experienced an orgasm before, who have never been in a relationship with another person before, why are we asking them at that young an age to sacrifice something that they don't even know about or doesn't matter to them now? How can they even understand? Can we ask them or tell them, make them understand that if this happens to them, they will never have children of their own. They'll never have biological children. That might not matter to them at age 9. It may matter to them at age 29. We do not allow children to get a tattoo without their parents' consent because it's something that changes them lifelong. Why are we allowing them to make these decisions? Finally, I would like to talk about lobotomies. Lobotomies, the founder of the lobotomy actually received a Nobel Prize in 1949 for the development of the lobotomy because it was seen as a magical cure for many psychiatric diseases. Of course, it had many negative side effects, which were acknowledged at the time that it was popular. But it persisted until the 1970s or even the 1980s in some cases, before it was recognized as the harm that it is. It maimed people for life. It changed people's personalities for life. It is never recommended anymore. I believe that gender transition or reassignment is the lobotomy of our times, and that it will only be a matter of time before it is recognized as such. The time, though, needs to be now that we recognize that this is the lobotomy of our times, and it is our moral responsibility to speak up against this atrocious injustice to children and to adults, because adults who have done this regret it too. Thank you very much.
Yay, Sarah! Woo-hoo!
Thank you, Sarah. Yes, fight the new lobotomy. Thistle is going to come up for another song, a beautiful song. I will.
Sarah, can you help her? Yes.
Right here. Okay, can you hear me? Here we go. So, a homeland for women is the state of Michigan, because the Michigan Women's Music Festival, a largely lesbian, women-only festival, happened in Michigan, in the woods of Michigan, for 40 years before it was shut down by trans activists, otherwise known as misogynists. And this is it's a song about Mishfest and the sacred place that those women created for those 40 years and how other festivals are popping up now in Michigan. And we can ride our bikes between these festivals together in intentional community as women. And won't you join me? My turban queen, when will you be seen with me out in the open breeze? My turban queen, there are stickers to paste and campfires to make, and we put it on your face. You'll pick up speed, my turban queen.
Well, not over there, but this is private property.
Into the night, under starry skies, we'll ride our bikes along the shore. Mishy Valley calls our name, and we're gonna ride to the sacred Michigan. My turban queen, let's dance cheek to cheek out in the open breeze. You are free. Woo! Thank you. Long live Michigan.
Okay, Amy, we have been asked to move because we're across from the NBC building and it's private property here. So we have to move. Can we just like I know I hate to do a 15-minute break, but we're gonna have to reset up somewhere else.
All right. Move quickly and reset up. Is there a way you cannot go off screen, or do you need to shut down your cameras?
I can leave the camera on and put it on like mute and pop in as soon as we move. We are really only about a block away from another location that is available and actually has more foot traffic. So we're gonna get on the move and finish up with the rest of the speakers and maybe even have more people join us. And so I'm sorry about this.
Sorry for the interruption. A security guard from the NBC building has just come over and requested that we move because she states that this is private property. So unfortunately we do have to move location, but we will set up elsewhere momentarily.
In about 5 minutes.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm so sorry about that, but we did want to get in front of the media and let them know we're here. That was like something I wanted to hit. I did have a feeling this was going to happen, but we were able to do a little bit in front of the NBC building, which they have completely ignored women's voices, and I did give them the opportunity to cover this, and now they're asking us to move on a Sunday. When we're not really bothering anyone. So I'm just gonna, yes, thank you so much, Amy.
Okay. All right. Okay, great.
So,
all right, well, you're gonna have a little conversation with me, I guess, in the meantime.
All right, WLRN listeners and viewers, we are going to have to move locations. Sorry about that. Thanks for tuning in. I'm just gonna pick up the camera and
Watching knows these live events are
Yes, they are going to be happening more often, these live events. And this is the first one that I've done in Chicago. Last month, we did one in Madison that was very successful. And we had trans activists there. So there was this whole confrontation between trans activists and the women speakers. And here, we're having a little bit of a confrontation, not much, that in front of the NBC building, they are telling us we need to leave because this is private property. So we're going to set up in another location.
What these live events are doing for us is these are a little
Can someone get the podium, or you can, or the guitar case is fine.
I got the guitar case.
And then the podium. I'm getting the podium. All right. Or ooh, it's heavy, girl. You got it. All right. So we're moving. All right. So here we are, moving down the streets of Chicago, looking for another location.
Are we going to the Wrigley building?
I think going to the Wrigley building might be a good idea. Let's ask Jennifer. Jen, should we go to the Wrigley building?
This is us, putting it out there what we are doing and spreading it. And I think anyone who follows Katy Jean.
I don't need
So that's all, I like to use the buddy system. Will you be my buddy?
Sure.
Great.
Meaning like we keep track of each other?
Yeah.
Okay.
Meaning I'm by your side and you're by mine. If you have to go to the bathroom, I'll go with you.
I
If have to go to the
gotcha.
bathroom, I'll go with
Okay.
you. I'll make sure you get safely in your
All right,
car
this
and you
is
make sure I
Katy
get safely in my
Jean.
car.
She
Yeah,
is
this is buddy system.
yeah.
This is, as I said, it is for the creation of our own media, but it is also for the encouragement of one another. We are encouraging one another by saying, look, we are willing to stand up, to say no publicly, to have our
Are we all
voices
broadcasting
heard, to have
live?
our faces
I'm broadcasting live here, yeah, on this phone.
Thank you all who are commenting. I really appreciate it.
Chicago. Oops.
If everyone was simply willing to say, that there's no such thing as gender people.
Oops. Okay, we will be at our location momentarily. We are doing a live Speakers Corner action today in front of the Wrigley building in Chicago. We were in front of the NBC media building because we wanted to make the point that mainstream media is not covering women's rights, women's sex-based rights. In fact, largely mainstream media is either silencing us and completely ignoring us, or they are demonizing us and making it seem like what we're saying is some kind of hate speech and threatening people, actually, targeting people's employment. That has happened to me. All right, so I think we found our spot. We're gonna go this way.
There are things, I don't know if you guys are always out there who says he is Korean gender. There are genders for people who think they are anime characters. There are sexualities for people who think they are in love with anime characters. Okay, they're starting to come back. I'll keep talking as they set up.
Okay, we are coming back. Here we are in front of the Wrigley building. Thank you so much for tuning into WLRN.
Just thousands and thousands kind of insanity, you know. Yeah, I think it is. I think it is over 50%. I think it's actually 30%, but you know, I don't care. It's a high number of these kids, even when you say that you are something other than a human being, you know, other than a fully embodied human being.
So,
and there's stringy transgender. Okay, you're next.
Okay, Amy, how is the view of the? Can you see me?
Yeah, you look great. You look
Okay.
great.
And we're here, and now we're here with like thousands of people in foot traffic. I mean, this is a poppin' area. We are on the public sidewalk, and Thistle is going to play another song, and we're going to get our order of women to come up, kind of organize while she plays. Thank you.
Testing, 1, 2. Hello, Chicago.
Here we go. All right,
Hello, Chicago. Let's talk about women's rights. Let's talk about women's free speech.
Trans is a liberal construct invented by white straight men. That shuts down our discussions of their violent power, and then they win. Violent power begins with man over woman, and then it all spins off from there into this postmodern racist sexist nightmare. What would be the opposite if trans was real? Cis. Only those seduced by power expect the whole world to be a personal deal. Who make it their standard, only person worth their proof to be the center of everything. While the earth chokes and dies of their spoon. Their spoon. The joke's on you. There are better things to do. And in the meantime, we are igniting. Yes, in the meantime, we are uniting. The distance between us feels greater than the sum of the parts. My heart is beating while the ozone is depleting its way too hard to be hopeful for the future, for humanity. My greatest hope is that me and my friends go out with dignity from this postmodern racist sexist nightmare. This postmodern racist sexist nightmare. This postmodern racist sexist nightmare. All right, free speech for women. Hello, Chicago.
Yes, hello, Chicago. Thank you, Thistle, for that beautiful song. We're going to introduce our next speaker, but I also wanted to talk a little bit about the pronouns. If you have been asked to put pronouns in your bio, That is grooming. When teachers come forward and use wrong pronouns in front of students, that is grooming. That is gaslighting the child into doubt about their own internal senses. Then they are getting them ready for indoctrination. So we want to make that clear that a good way to stand for the rights of women and girls is to object to pronouns in your bio. That's a simple thing everyone can do. Our next speaker is Katy Jean, and she is wonderful. Here you go.
Thank you, Jay. Thank you for the independent media that is covering this event, this Free Speech for Women event. Events like this are being organized at a city near you. We know that events will be happening in June in Austin, Texas, and also in the South Carolina, Georgia area, and then in July in the LA area. This is a Free Speech for Women event. All you need to do an event like this is for women who have something to say. And here's what I have to say. Biological sex is a non-confusing fact revealed by chromosomes, primary and secondary sex traits, and the hormones naturally produced in the body. Every human being is one of two sexes. This is not controversial for 99.99% of us, and for the 1 in 100,000 individuals born with a DSD, modern science can sort all of that out, and the people with differences of sexual development are still either male or female. There are no other choices. And you can't change your sex. And the women know who the men are. You might not know this, but women are better at determining and deciphering biological sex than men are. It is a brainstem activity that comes from 600 million years of a dimorphic sex pattern that human beings follow. So although the U.S. government, via the Department of Homeland Security, has its Disinformation Governance Board with anti-democratic definitions and Orwellian words like misinformation, the fact is that whether or not you like what I have to say, it doesn't make it false. Everybody has a biological sex. So I've been thinking lately about a few very strange things that have been going on in our society lately that I want you to make you aware of, that you might not be aware of. Some disturbing things. Adult men are taking hormones, putting those hormones into their body until their body produces pus in the pectoral muscle area, and then they take that pus and attach a hungry baby to their pseudo nipple and expect that hungry baby to be nourished from the pus that is produced by a hormonally infused biological male. The La Leche League, that used to be a bastion and a stalwart for single-sex spaces for women, has now totally walked away from this position and has called this activity that men are doing breastfeeding. And that's right, if you are paying attention, women now do an activity called chest feeding and men do an activity called breastfeeding. You might find this new wave, I think it's child abuse.
Agreed. Agreed.
And for those of you, let's see. Oh,
preach the choir.
Speaking of child abuse, odd or awkward or often autistic children, these creative and interesting souls are being medicalized at a clinic near you. They are being denied their own biological puberty. Once they've been denied puberty, then it's just a moment or a few moments until they receive cross-sex hormones. And then the medical, chemical, surgical procedures take place. And pretty soon, this is a human being that has never been able to and never will be able to achieve an orgasm. I think that's abuse of our human body. I think that's something that any adult should be able to enjoy with their human body. And these children are losing that opportunity before they even are given an opportunity, like before they can consent. Children cannot consent to these perverse and grotesque things that are happening to them. Doctors have forgotten their Hippocratic oath. They are only too happy to take your money and diagnose, touch, and photograph, and eventually mutilate the genitals of your children taking the breasts of tomboys and lesbians and gay boys and femi boys. These girls and boys are our sons and daughters and women. You and me, as we are mothers and we are teachers and we are family practitioners, and we must say no to the gender industry on behalf of our children. Young lesbians are being told it is bigotry to not allow perverted straight men to penetrate her with her lady dick. There's never been a dick on a lady, and if he tells you he's a lady, that's how you know he's a dick. There is no bigotry in sexual boundaries, not ever. And sister, you are a fantastic lesbian. Some women would call this man who says he has a lady dick a lesbian. I'd call him a rapist. Did you know that the NCAA is allowing men to flash their penis in the women's swimming locker rooms? Not only that, but the NCAA and the Red Bull Extreme Sports League, and right down to your daughter's T-ball league, they are allowing boys and men to participate in women's sports. Girl dads, where are the girl dads? Stand up for your daughter's rights to compete in sports. And mothers, what are you doing? Stop teaching your son that it is his privilege to be a special girl, and even though he's a boy, and then to dominate our daughter's opportunities. Your son is a boy, your daughter is a girl. Stop gaslighting your own kid, and he or she will most likely sort it out on their own. Also, I want you to know some very strange new parents have been raising what they call babies. A baby is a child who has been denied the true facts about his or her biological sex, only being called they or some fake words. And again, you may think that this is new wave, but I happen to think it is child abuse. It is our right to know if we are male or female, because it never changes, and it's not a choice, and children cannot consent to determining for themselves if he or she is a boy or a girl.
Yes, yes.
So I have, and then also you can change the sex marker on your birth certificate. Do people know that? State laws in this country allow you to change your sex marker on your birth certificate. And to this, I wonder, what is a birth certificate if not a record of the birth that happened at that time and place? I do not think, for the biological safety of women and children, I do not think that biological sex should be protected health information. This is public information. Everybody has a biological sex, and we deserve to know each other's biological sex. One final story for now. I will come back later. I have more to share, but for now I will close with this. There is one mother who is so enchanted by this bullshit that she has allowed her son to adopt a new nickname, not just any nickname, a very special name, the name of his sister. That is right. Mothers are allowing their sons to take their daughter's own name. And who is she if not a name? If this is not preferential treatment to males, I don't know what would be. I have more to say, but is there somebody else who would like to speak? This is a Free Speech for Women event.
Thank you so much, Katy Jean. Thank you for that informative Speaker's Corner speech. I'm going to kind of bounce off what Katy Jean was talking about and let everybody know, if you have a child in Chicago public schools, they are being indoctrinated. They are being read gender confusing books in kindergarten, first grade, second grade, third grade. It is in the curriculum. It's actually embedded in the curriculum, and that would mean it is embedded in the reading program, in the social sciences, in the social studies, in history. They have embedded gender ideology and the gender industry in the schools. And if you don't know this, you may want to call your principal and ask a few questions. And after that, talk to some parents in your school that go to the same, their kids go to the same school. And then after that, demand a school board meeting. If your child is in Chicago public schools, they are being indoctrinated by the gender industry. This is something that's very important, because what it leads to is confusion with their sex. And then the child wants to
have their breast removed, have a hysterectomy, an orchiectomy. This is irreversible. So your children are being indoctrinated in the Chicago public school system, and we are in Chicago, so I think that's an important piece of information for any parent or any uncle or aunt or grandmother to know that schools are trying to confuse your child's sex at 5 years old. 2 years ago, I Am Jazz was read across the nation in kindergarten. Every kindergarten class read I Am Jazz. Why are we teaching our 5-year-olds about such a complicated subject? And we know you cannot change sex. No human being can change sex. The gender industry is a $5.2 trillion industry. $5.2 trillion is a lot of incentive to try to capture your child. Now, I know everybody loves their children. So please call your principal and ask a few questions like, do you have mixed sex, gender neutral bathrooms? If your school, which I know they do because this comes down from the president's EO, right? If Chicago Public Schools wants funding, federal funding, they have to implement this policy. So it is in your school. And I hope that that's information that you guys use and call your principal and get together with other parents, because it's going to take a village to pull this out. They want your money. This is about money. This isn't about empathy. It is about money. So for the next speaker, we're gonna ask the next speaker to step up. Thistle now will speak.
Hi. Okay. Sure. This passerby wants to say, you're being live streamed, sir. Go ahead.
I just wanted to say thank you for coming out here, and thanks for coming out here and telling the truth. It's pretty crazy that they're trying to indoctrinate young kids that are 5, 6, 7, 8 years old when they're confused already. They're very influenceable at that age, and they don't know at that age, at age 5 or 6 or 7, they don't need to be told that they can be a boy or a girl, or a man or a woman is supposed to be who they're from birth.
That's okay. We know that it's hard to speak about this. That's why we're here, so that we can model behavior we want to see. And thank you so much for stepping up.
I just want to say I'm in full support, and I want to thank them for coming out here and raising awareness to this subject, because it is just a shame what's being narrated as far as trying to indoctrinate your kids at such a young age, when this is something we may have learned in sex education when we were in middle school, and we were just learning the basics of the birds and the bees. They're trying to teach kids now at 5 or 6 that don't know anything about a lot of things.
That they can be a boy or a girl.
Yeah, and being
a girl, they can be a boy.
That's the thing, and changing their parts, and that they could be like you said, I agree with that 100%. A kid at that age, they could easily be influenced to go in that direction. And like she said, this is a multi-million-dollar industry that's making money after hijacking your kids at such a young age. And it's wrong. And people need to be aware of that, because the mainstream media is not being straight and forthright with us. And they're trying to hijack your kids. So I just want to thank you for listening to that. I didn't have an organized speech, but I'm in full support of everyone here. And I agree with all of these signs. For a trans person to be able to go into a woman's restroom with male parts, or to be able to compete in sports and be able to come out that far ahead in first place, when they're only, as a male swimmer, for example, Leah Thomas was only, I think, in 400th place as a male swimmer, or 300 and something, comes out number 1. That's not fair for all the women who work so hard in the Olympics and in other sports. They've been, from a young age, they've been putting themselves in the gym and accomplished so much to get to that point, and then it's stripped away by somebody who's biologically a male. It's not right, not fair, and it's completely against what I feel a woman should be appreciated for and what they strive so hard to get to. And it's a shame, and it needs to change. It's just not fair. Thank you very much, and good luck to you guys, and thank you for everything you stand for. Thanks for everything you stand for. I appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. Okay, Thistle, thank you for letting he had to go. Thank you for letting him go.
It's really heartening to hear a passerby starting to speak the language that we speak, because what I want to talk about is the censorship and silencing of the mainstream media. We have a full-on media blackout in Madison, Wisconsin, where I am from. And we've got some noise in the background here. I hope you can still hear me. So in Madison, Wisconsin, where I'm from, I've been speaking about this topic for 8 years. And as you can imagine, 8 years ago, a lot of people did not know about this. And I became the target of vicious attacks on my reputation. I've been called a hateful bigot. I've been called a trans misogynist. And I'm a musician, and I used to have a band, and I was completely blacklisted in Madison at the venue where I played a regular show, Crystal Corner Bar, which is a major music venue in Madison. I worked hard, like this gentleman was just talking about. Women are not well represented in the music industry. Women often are relegated to being backup singers. They're not the front of the band. They don't write their own songs often. They don't play instruments often. It takes a lot of courage and practice and strength to enter into the music scene as a woman. And I somehow found that strength. I got a band together and I achieved my dream, which was to play regularly in my community. Well, I started talking about how men are not women, and that men who take on the identity of womanhood are misogynists, and that this is not fair to women and girls. And I did a couple of radio shows on WORT 89.9 FM in Madison, our community radio station. And it caused all of these fireworks and all of this controversy. And so there's fresh libel was just printed about me in the Our Lives magazine, which is the LGBTQ WTF magazine in Madison. And so now available for free in a glossy magazine. I don't know where they get their money from, but that magazine has got money. It's all over town for free, that you can read about how I interviewed lesbian feminists, and that these lesbians somehow they are being construed as hateful bigots because they say no to men. It is not hateful for women to say no to men. It is not hateful for women to want to break the sound barrier and enter into the mainstream media with our message. But since the mainstream media is not covering us, we have had to create our own media, which is what I did. I founded Women's Liberation Radio News, WLRN, 6 years ago. We have not missed 1 month. We put out a monthly podcast discussing this topic, but we also discuss many other topics related to women, women in the environment, women and race, women and sports. We discuss so many topics on Women's Liberation Radio News, WLRN. Why? Because the mainstream media will not cover us. They, in fact, defame us, libel us, call us hateful bigots, say that we are causing trans people to die, that they're committing suicide just because we are speaking our truth and saying what our opinion is. And often our opinion isn't even an opinion, it's just stating biological fact. Men are male, women are female. It's not rocket science. It's really easy for us to understand that, which is why it is a multi-million-dollar industry that multi-trillion-dollar industry. Thanks for that correction. How do you get people to stop knowing basic facts? Well, you have to brainwash them. You have to indoctrinate them. You have to trick them. And so that's what's happening in the mainstream media. Support your local indie media. Support Women's Liberation Radio News, WLRN. Support FeMaxx. FeMaxx for Women. It's a new women's media channel. Support Known Heretic and Amy Souza's work, because otherwise our message is not going to get out there. We have to do it ourselves. But someday, because we're growing, we're going to be in cities doing speakers corners like this all over the country. And someday the mainstream media is going to have to take notice, because we're just going to be too loud. Women are 52% of the population, and we are not going to shut up about this. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And just to remind everybody, we did notify NBC, which is located about a block from here, and they declined to come and cover us. I think we have another speaker. Do you have a speaker? Okay. And here you go.
Hello, everybody. I do not have a prepared speech today, but I just want to take a moment to talk about all of the women who are currently imprisoned with male prisoners in women's prisons. Yes, this is actually happening. We are not exaggerating. We are not making things up. I currently have a Freedom of Information Act request to the Illinois Department of Corrections, trying to find out exactly how many male prisoners are currently housed in the women's prison in our state. They have avoided giving me this answer. I am in the process of trying to force them to tell me. But we know there are at least a few, and we know that more will be put in the women's prisons. More men will be put, male prisoners, into the women's prison, will be housed there. And this occurred not because of a law change, but because a single judge decided it was in her power to change this policy and allow male prisoners into women's prisons.
Women say no!
Women say no to this. We deserve to have a prison for ourselves and not be housed with male prisoners who often have done violent and or sexual crimes, sometimes against women. We should not have to worry about being raped when we go to prison. This is not something that is part of the punishment. It is cruel and unusual to house female prisoners with male prisoners. This is very, very basic stuff. I am not saying anything that should be controversial. This is basic human rights. Thank you, everyone, for listening.
Woo! Thank you. And we have invited everyone to speak. We just asked that the women, ladies first, and now we have another gentleman that would like to speak. As for the men housed with women in prison, there's already been a rape in Illinois. There's been 2 rapes in New York. 3, as far as I know, 3 rapes in Washington state. What that equals to is state-sanctioned rape. That's what that is. Housing dangerous, convicted rapists, men with women prisoners, is state-sanctioned rape. That's what's happening. So that's why we're here. We're here to bring awareness to the issue. We're bringing awareness to the gender industry. We're bringing awareness to the violation of women's rights. And we are objecting. We are making a record of our dissent. We do not agree with our state putting convicted male rapists in with women in prison. Now, as she said, that's not controversial, but it's happening, so we're bringing awareness. Now, here's our next speaker. Thank you. Thank you so much. Here you go. This is Teak, and he has a few things to say.
As a full Haitian in America, as a full Haitian in America, I would like to say that instead of it being a women thing, it's faced with both genders, you know? Like, yes, both sexes, in terms of men get raped in jail too, and that's not a sight that anybody wants to see, you know? I feel like the same thing that you guys go through as an African American, I go through it every day. It's not a women's thing, it's a people thing, you know? Wherever you go, you're gonna deal with it. So as soon as you hit 21, it's all about how you do it and fight for whatever you believe in, and congrats and good luck with it.
Oh, thank you, and that's why we're here. Thank you so much for supporting us, and that's why we're here. We know there's other issues, but we are here to stand up for women and girls, women and children. That's why we're here. And we welcome anyone to come up and talk. This is a public speaker's corner, and we would like you to come up if you have something to say. And do we have one more speaker that has anything to say? Okay, I think Katy Jean wants to finish us off, and maybe someone else will come up, but we'll let Katy Jean speak since she is so eloquent. Thank you, Katy.
Love you. Can you hold the sign while I speak? Great. So women and men are different. We've been talking about that all afternoon. It's not sexist and it's not patriarchal or anything but factual to say that women's bodies are the ones that are responsible for reproduction, including pregnancy and nurturing infancy. That is not a patriarchal or sexist thing to say. It happens in the woman's body. It's the woman's responsibility. Let's make it the woman's choice as well. Men's consolation prize for the fact that their inferior bodies can't make another human being. They did get a consolation prize. They are bigger and stronger. So men's minds and bodies are prone to violence and sexual gratification, often both all at once, and this is a situation in which women are particularly vulnerable. The source of women's oppression is the fact that men and women are not the same. Men of eras past and future step into the responsibility to create a world that is safe for women and children, but today's men have failed. Women must stand up. Women must unite. We must get beyond our differences and our inconveniences and politics and parties to work together to take care of our kids and our pets, our trauma and transactions, make better homes and gardens and garages, and then get out to the street and be heard. If you own a business with a restroom, here's what I would like you to do. If you own a business with a restroom, I would like you to make a bunch of pink and blue flag striped stickers that say welcome and put them on the men's room door. On the men's room door, only trans people are welcome. On the women's door, under the word women, write single sex space. And this will solve 97% of the problems. Of course, there are still the men who feel like, even though we have included them and seen them and given them a place where they can just pee that is safe and they are welcome, some men still feel entitled to go into the women's bathroom. What do women say to this? Women say no. Women say no. You are not welcome in the women's bathroom if you are a man. There is no man, no special man, no certain man who is welcome into the women's bathroom, locker room, toilet room, dorm, ward, cell. There's no space that is a woman's space where she will be undressing or sleeping that men are welcome in public. I also want to say that if you are a man, you need to start getting used to the full bandwidth of men being present in your spaces, because if you harass them in the men's space, then they will come into the women's space. And that is the space where your mother and your grandmother are taking care of their bodies, and where little girls are learning to go potty, and where teenage girls are learning how to menstruate. And this is no place for a man or a boy to be. He does not have the right. The reality is the gender industry is disinformation somewhere on the spectrum from subjective to religious, in some ways a hobby, in other ways a cult, in other ways a fetish. It's an unfalsifiable hypothesis that has no place in public policy or law. It is said that hard times make strong men, and strong men make good times, and good times make weak men, and weak men make hard times. Ladies, we are in the best of hard times and weak men. Men who are content to own AR-15s and play military video games instead of enlisting and actually serving his country. Men who somehow support their existence by mindlessly streaming and consuming mental trash, languaging in the privilege of his parents' prosperity, their bodies riddled with testosterone and fat, porn sick, stupid, lazy, violent cowards, violent toward their mothers and their girlfriends and their classmates and little kids at school. There is also a special subset of losers I would like to address for just a moment. Those cowardly police that stood by waiting for body armor while fourth grade girls and boys were murdered. Fire them all.
Thank you for that passionate speech, Katy Jean. We have another speaker coming up, so we want to welcome her.
I didn't prepare anything today, but I have been thinking as I've heard everybody speak. A couple nights ago, one of my friends, who I haven't known for very long, asked me what I was doing this weekend. And I asked her, do you know what a TERF is? And we had a very good conversation during which we established that she agrees with everything that us big bad TERFs believe, which is sex is immutable, it is unchangeable. There are men and there are women and there is nothing else. And it is important that we protect our women. And one of the things that she said that has really stuck with me in a sad way is she said, I agree with you and I do think there are problems, but I just think there are bigger fish to fry. And I know that there are many of you out here who feel the same way. Again, like everybody else, these women have pointed out, this is not controversial stuff, folks. This is all really basic stuff, but we need you to be out here and be standing for women, for your daughters. There aren't bigger fish to fry. If we do not define what a woman is legally, we cannot protect women. We cannot protect girls. We cannot successfully track sex crimes or violent crimes, and our statistics mean nothing if not based in sex. So if you are sitting there today and you've thought now or ever, you know what, maybe this is important, maybe I agree with it, but there's bigger fish to fry, I am telling you here, there are no bigger fish to fry. Without a definition of man and woman, we have nothing.
Woo! And thank you. And we all know the definition of woman, don't we? It's adult human female. And if you have any questions about that, ask your mom. She'll tell you, respect her labor. I think we are about, you want to say something? Okay, we have one more speaker again.
My battery is low, so.
So we'll invite her, Sarah.
Okay.
Hello, I have one more thing to piggyback off to talk about, because we are talking about women's rights, girls' rights. I want to talk about abortion, about the right to abortion, which soon here in the United States will be taken away from a large number of women when the Supreme Court will strike down Roe versus Wade, which is established in the 70s by second wave feminists. It was something that they achieved. So once that is struck down, states may make laws banning abortion, putting restrictions on abortion that do not exist currently. And this will be a human rights crisis for women and girls. That is not an exaggeration. It will be a human rights crisis. You just have to look at other places in the world that have criminalized abortion and what happened to them. In Romania, children were abandoned to rot in orphanages, and they could not even be adopted because they were ignored and developed attachment disorder. So no one wanted to adopt them. In El Salvador, women are jailed for having a miscarriage. And that has happened in the United States as well. You know why that happens? That always happens when abortion is criminalized, because there's literally no way to tell the difference between a natural miscarriage and a self-induced one. There is no way. It is impossible. This will be a direct consequence of outlawing, criminalizing abortion. Women will be behind bars. Girls will be behind bars for no fault of their own. Even if they did not seek out an abortion, even if they did not try to abort themselves. And this ties into what we have been talking about, because it is a fact, a biological fact, that only women and girls can get pregnant. Only women and girls need to have abortions. If we cannot define, as my colleague said, what a woman is or what a girl is, then how can we protect women and girls? And I would like to expose the hypocrisy of the anti-choice movement, or they should say the pro-forced birth movement. They are hypocrites. It is people like Greg Abbott, who is pro-life, as he calls himself, who is just fine with elementary school children being gunned down at school. He has no problem with that. Is that pro-life? Is that pro-life?
No.
People who call themselves pro-life want to cut school lunch programs. They're not in favor of subsidized childcare so women can work. They are not in favor of WIC. They do not want children to be fed. They're not in favor of health care for all. They do not care what happens to a child after he or she is born. It is the woman's fault. That is hypocrisy. That is hypocrisy. And we need, so abortion, we need to donate to your local abortion fund. Donate to help women in states where they will be criminalized for having an abortion. Donate so that they can come to other states and have their abortion. I would also like to finish with, it is a human rights issue, because a woman cannot be a full human being if she cannot have an abortion. Because the state cannot compel a man to donate a kidney to a dying person against his will. The state cannot compel a man to donate blood, which doesn't even harm him, to another person against his will. A man has bodily autonomy. Even if someone is going to die and they need a kidney, the state, the government cannot compel you to do that. And that is right and good. You need to make that choice for yourself. But the state wants to compel women and girls to keep a pregnancy that they do not want and give birth if they do not want it. Childbirth is dangerous. Women still die as a result of childbirth. Women are still maimed for life, and that is not an exaggeration, as a result of childbirth. Women have lifelong complications they can't have from childbirth. It is not just suffer for 9 months and then you're done. It's suffer for 9 months, be in agonizing pain until the child comes out, and then perhaps lifelong complications. What if the woman does not want to deal with that? We should not compel women to have to deal with that if they do not wish to. Thank you.
And thank you so much for that speech. And I just wanted to invite anyone, any passerby, to come up and speak if they so desire. We are here for free speech for women, but we also invite men. We just wanted ladies first. We're here today to talk about woman, adult human female. We are modeling behavior. We are modeling the behavior of talking about women's rights and how the gender industry is at odds with our rights. They are, if you look at Biden's EO, he has prioritized gender identity over the sex-based rights of women and girls, thus negating the sex-based rights of women and girls. And let me explain this to you. If a man can identify as a woman, if anyone can be a woman, a man, women aren't defined in the law, and we have no protection. Now, what are we? Are we 2/3 of a person? What are we? What does that make us? If you think this is a benign issue, this is the most important issue of your generation. They are indoctrinating your children. By age 5, they're reading sex confusing books that were meant to confuse their sex. Now, why are they doing that? Why do you think they're doing that? It's because this is a $5 trillion industry, and they want your child to be confused about their sex. They want your child to come to you and say, I need those opposite sex hormones. I need puberty blockers. I need a mastectomy. I need an orchiectomy. Why do they want that? Because that costs money. This is about money. This is about indoctrinating and grooming your children so that they can be a lifelong medical patient. Now, there's another aspect to this that it is opposing women's rights. Women have the right to go to the restroom in public. When we didn't have that right, that was called the urinary leash. But we fought for our rights, and we got bathrooms. We got public bathrooms so that we could be safe when we were in a state of undress in public. That is what this is about. That would restrict our movement, and we would go backwards as women in society. If you can't go to the restroom when you're out in public, you end up not going outside. Now, there's many religious women that won't go outside because that part of their religion is that they can't be in a state of undress in front of men. Why are we prioritizing men's feelings over women and girls' safety? Now, we all know this is wrong. We all know it. We all know the difference between men and women and boys and girls. Everybody knows. And we are here to model the behavior of talking about it, because it's not scary to talk about it. It's not as big of a risk as you perceive. You can talk about this. Talk about it amongst your friends. Talk about it to your principal. Talk about it at the school board meeting. And your coworkers, talk about it. This is not a taboo subject. Women and girls deserve the right to privacy and dignity in the public sphere. And that is not something we should be shying away from talking about. I want to thank everyone for coming. It's a wonderful Chicago Speakers Corner. We had a lot of audience participation, and many people support us. And that's what we want you to see. We want you to see that we're talking about it and we're getting support so you can talk about it. Thank you so much.
Hello, WLRN listeners and followers. Thank you so much for tuning into the WLRN channel. And this
we are adult human females. We want our sex-based rights. Sex-based rights. We are